Both phones were shot at 1080p, 30 frames per second. Any pictures throughout this video was shot in its native resolution. For today's video, I would like to compare the rear cameras of the OnePlus 3 and the Nexus 6P. The Nexus 6P has been one of my favorite shooters in terms of photo quality and video quality. I've always had an issue with video stabilization, but we'll go over this too and we can compare both of these phones and see how they fare against each other. And even though we have a sunny day today, we still have a good mix of clouds. On the displays itself, the sky looks pretty similar to each other as far as color goes. Here in this shot, I'll have my back to the sun. Pay attention to the microphones on both of these as well. It'll give a chance to hear if one microphone is louder than the other or if one sounds clearer than the other. I've done so much testing with the Nexus 6P that I know how video stabilization is going to be, but we might as well test it out anyway. As I'm doing this test on a big field, I want to take a look and see how good the quality looks from far distances. And since we're in this big field, we might as well test the zoom out. First on the OnePlus 3. And then on the Nexus 6P. It's a little sunny for me to see, but it looks like the Nexus 6P, when it's completely zoomed in, has a better focus on the picture. I'm just trying to touch the focus to see if that'll help at all. Doesn't really look like it. Alright, zoom back out. It's always hard to tell on the camera for me when I'm comparing two different phones because the displays are really different on each one. Things are a lot easier to see once I have both of these videos uploaded and I can start editing them out. In daylight, outdoors, the OnePlus 3 and the Nexus 6P share very similar color profiles. I've always thought the Nexus 6P to be fairly accurate in color, which is why it's been one of my favorites when taking pictures, except at times a little darker and a little cooler. And by cooler, I mean there's sometimes a tint of blue to the overall picture. If you take a look at the sky in this video and compare the two, you'll see what I mean. If you want a better idea, check out my previous shootouts with the 6P, there's a ton of them. Anyway, when the 6P produces a darker and cooler picture, I always thought it'd be perfect if it was just a little brighter and a little warmer. And now when I have both of these phones side by side, because they're so similar, the OnePlus 3 kind of exhibits that. That is an accurate color representation like my 6P, but on the warmer, brighter side. As far as the other aspects, the OnePlus 3 stabilizes video a lot better than the 6P, and that's thanks to its optical and electronic image stabilization, OIS and EIS. That's actually the biggest reason I don't use the 6P for video unless it's going to be sitting on a tripod the entire time. And lastly, as far as the microphones go on both of these phones, the volume for audio seems to be at the same level. The only big difference I'm noticing here is the noise and wind cancellation is really aggressive on the OnePlus 3. Let's sum up the cameras real quick though. The OnePlus 3 is obviously great for outdoor shots. It's one of the few phones I've used that provides a really accurate color panel when compared to other flagship phones. This is actually why I wanted to pit it up against the 6P, because I knew the 6P's always given me decent results, and it'd be a camera I'd carry with me daily if it wasn't for the fact that, well, its video stabilization was so well, let's face it, bad. The OnePlus 3 seems to fix those issues, but indoors and low light is really another question. There are other cameras I'd rather go with, I'd imagine, but let me get another round of testing done on that too. This is one of the reasons I do a lot of videos on the camera. I feel like a sample shot of 5 pictures really isn't enough. There are too many variables here, but let me ask you, as far as picture quality and video quality goes, take video stabilization aside, what looks better to you? I know they're really similar, but do you have a preference? I'll throw a poll up.